r/AskReddit. What's the strangest punishment your parents ever gave you? I would get grounded to the front porch, because when I was grounded in my room I would entertain myself with literally anything. Even lint from the carpet. So my dad finally had enough and made me sit on the front porch, and I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone except to say that I'm grounded and can't talk. Random stranger walks by. Hi. I'm grounded. My dad said I can't talk to you. Hi grounded. I'm dad. If I cursed, my mom would make me go into the bathroom and say every curse I knew while looking in the mirror so I could see how ugly I made myself look while cursing. Well, I learned that if I wanted to curse with impunity all I had to do was say ass and get sent to the bathroom where I could say any curse I could think of. Punishment free. For as long as I wanted. Lol. Accidentally taught you venting/coping skills. Neat. Cursing has been shown to be a pain reliever. If I misbehaved in a car, my mom would lower the window and say that a bird would fly in if I'd continue to misbehave. Were you afraid of birds? Or just the thought of getting a bird smacked into your face at terminal velocity? Was the car free falling into a bottomless void? I was not allowed to read unless it was specifically for school. My teacher stopped letting me bring books to class because I would finish my work early and read. I got the answers right and I wasn't causing trouble. So I still don't get why I got in trouble for practicing cursive writing after my assignments were done. One of my desk mates said it bothered her, so I wasn't allowed. Still salty about that. When I was little, my mom's go-to punishment was to make me kneel on uncooked rice for about 15 minutes. Had to keep a straight back or else the time was increased. She did this because that was how her mom punished her and her brother. She eventually stopped using this punishment after she set some clear boundaries with my very controlling grandmother. She never felt right making me do it. My little sister never had to go through it. I kind of resented that for a while, but eventually was grateful she didn't experience it. That is a double glow up. Your mom was like my mom is nutso. I'm not following her examples. And realized even the stuff that worked in the past was bullshit. You realize that going through it was cruel and your sister was lucky to avoid it, and it was good. I'm so happy I got to kneel on vents. We were well enough off that we had central account and eating and a lot of the vents were on the floor. I never realized how not normal that was until I read about kneeling on rice, and I was like, that's super ducked up. Withheld dinner and I was only allowed to have bread and butter. My mother is a terrible cook, so I was super okay with this. My stepsister was denied dinner once because my dad decided the whole family was going to share this giant nacho plate and that was our only option for dinner. My stepsister and I were close, so later I made and snuggled her a PB&J sandwich. Later that evening everyone but her stepsister was violently ill from the nachos. I made and snuggled her a PB&J sandwich. Truly, a sandwich made with tender love and care. My parents routinely took away my library card when I did something worth punishing, so I memorized it. When they caught on, they refused to go to the library with me for the duration of my punishment. So I started volunteering at the library once a week, so they had to take me. Steady on. Hermione. Matilda Fifi. I was always more the artist type. Didn't much care for throwing the football around or working on cars. I wasn't belittled or anything. My family let me do me. But my stepfather was an evil genius, and when I did something that was considered a minor infraction he'd give me the option of either going to bed early or staying up till my normal bedtime, but having to watch sports with him in the living room. And I couldn't just zone out or read. He'd sit there and make chit chat about the game, or try explaining the rules or the player's stats or something else I couldn't have cared less about. I'm 34 and we still laugh about that sometimes. It was brutal. To be fair, your stepdad probably wanted to spend time with you doing something he liked as well. If my son ends up not liking sports, not gonna lie, it would be really sad for me. Yeah, I will accept whatever he likes, but right now I do have hope of watching sports with him and getting happy/excited etc when something happens. If your son doesn't like sports, you can come to my rec league hockey games and I'll pretend you're my dad. Sometimes guys' wives/girlfriends come, and if I score a goal, You can lean over and say that's my son, and I'll point at you. Which will confuse them, because we are probably around the same age. Dad made me splice together his old 8mm vacation films into a Vine-style highlight reel after I hurt his feelings by refusing to see Chef with him. Why did you refuse to watch it with him, and have you watched it with him since then? What did you think about his vacation films? Sounded like foodie porn. Watched years later and now I see where he got idea for punishment. Forced to smell dog breath. Because if we have to deal with the filth from your mouth, then you have to deal with the filth from its mouth. I got this on numerous occasions. It sounds silly at first, but it was anything but at the time. I begged them to give me anything but that. Like for swearing? No. For saying he's a Patriots fan. I got a bad grade on a math test in elementary school. As my dad dropped me off for the day, I quickly told him he needed to sign something, the test. He was so furious that even though I was already late for school, he drove the 2 miles back home, spanked me and made me walk to school. I was so late. I understand that parents want their kids to do well in school, but getting angry like that over a bad grade is so dumb and rather counterproductive. My parents would yell at me if I wasn't on the honor roll and say things that just made me feel like crap. Instead of going to them for help when I was struggling in school, I talked as little about school with them as possible. I hear this. My kid was in kindergarten last year and the school uses a color scale to help kids understand acceptable behaviors. Every day you start on green, and if do well and help others you clip up yellow, orange, and red, and if you're acting up or not listening then you clip down blue, pink, purple. My kid is really pretty well behaved and was shocked the first time a kid in his class got pink, note home, or purple, call parents. He gets in the car one day and tells me he was blue. We talked about why and let him tell me why he was wrong. He asked if I was mad. I was honest with him and told him I wasn't mad. That I knew he was a good kid. And everyone is bound to have a blue day once in a while. I just asked him not to make a habit of it and told him I was glad he told me before I found out from his planner they write the color every day. That was what seemed to have the most impact on him. That I was glad he told me. I need to make sure I get that point across well before he's a teenager and don't want him to ever be scared to be honest with me or tell me things and I feel like the window is closing a bit every day. Not really a strange punishment, but it turned out strangely I think. When I was probably 5 or 6. Something happened, literally can't remember what I did to deserve the punishment, that caused my parents to send me to my room with no lights, a loud on and the door closed. I'd never been able to sleep with the door closed and at least a light on in the hall or something till then. This time, I just went to sleep after a while and there with no lights. And that was the last time I needed lights on or the door open when I went to bed. Worked out well from my point of view. Edit. Wow, this kinda blew up over the weekend. I should say that I grew up during the late 60s when spanking was just a normal thing too. I don't remember ever actually getting spanked though. I dunno. My parents were never cruel to us when we were children. In fact, maybe I was just sent to my room and I just didn't turn on the light myself. Goodness knows I could have. The switch was on the inside of my room. I might have just pouted on my bed till I fell asleep and realized later that I didn't have the light on. It was around 50 years ago or so. I remember that it happened, but I don't remember the specific circumstances. Worked out well from their point of view too. As a dad with 2 little kids who still can't fall asleep without a million night lights keeping me awake. Yeah. It was definitely a bigger win for the parents. No punishment. And that in itself was punishment. I totally bombed during my first semester in college. I took 16 credits and ended up with a 0.77 GPA for the semester. Yes. Less than 1.0. My parents were disappointed, but told me that they knew I could do better. And they knew I would do better. They forgave me and basically said okay. So you screwed up. Now make it better and make us proud. The fact that they were not upset really weighed on me. It really put a ton of guilt and shame upon me. Even though they didn't put those things on me, I did it to myself. It really motivated me to not peen around any longer in college. I buckled down and really succeeded. I failed my first semester of college. I lived in the dorms. I obviously had to move back home. Like most teenagers, I was scared of my old man. If I was misbehaving, all my mom had to say was wait till your father gets home, and the fear of God would be put into me. I thought he was going to yell, scream or curse at me. He didn't do any of that. When I came home, he just looked at me and said, you basically blew an almost free ride to college. I'm disappointed in you, man, that ducking hurt. I went off the rails after my mom died, and I'll never forget the day I half-assed a chemistry assignment. 11th grade HS student at the time, and my dad, normally the type to yell and berate me, lost his shit. Calmly, I asked if he thought I'd make a D. He took my project, a CD case with element info on it, dropped it on the ground, and stepped on it. Didn't say a word. Didn't break eye contact. Heavy steel toe boots. My project is ruined. Silence. Son. If you're gonna half-ass it, might as well not do it. Then walked off. The guilt and shame. I can't stand not giving my all to this day. It's not always beneficial, but it's always my best lol. Edit. I refuse to edit this and acknowledge the silver award. Thanks anyway though. I mean, it's my first. Or I guess it would have been had I been awarded a silver. I was being a peen as a teen. I think I was 15 and tormenting my little brother by grossing him out. Stuff like burping in his face when he didn't expect it, making him smell my feet, etc. And he really hated it. It made me laugh, and I called him a pussy for being grossed out so easily. After he came to her crying one day about it, my mom warned me that if I didn't stop, I'd be very sorry. I didn't listen. Worst mistake of my childhood. My mom ran a small doggy daycare / pet grooming business. The next time I did this to my brother, she put me to work cleaning filthy dog kennels without gloves and without a scooper. Worse, she introduced me to what dog nail glands are, which groomers often have to express around 3 times a day that week. I had to express dog nail glands. I was not allowed to wear gloves. I puked every single time. She planned on the punishment lasting all week, but my bro asked her to let me off the hook after he saw how defeated and broken I looked by Wednesday. That sounds fair except the whole no gloves thing. Some vets express the nail glands without gloves on. I don't know how, but they do. A little brother. I still don't know what I did wrong. You're such a disappointment. They wanted a fresh start. Can we have a refund on this? No. But we can offer you a new model. Free of charge, and you can keep the old one. That's the least you can do. My dad's punishments were odd. If he caught me doing something I wasn't meant to, he wouldn't stop me from doing it. He'd make me do it more and more until I was sick of it. It worked quite well, tbh. Edit. So a lot of people seem to think I'm a guy. Sorry folks, I have a vag. My parents caught me with a pack of smokes. They had me sit down at the kitchen table and chain smoke a full pack. And I got ill, and 3 days later, started smoking again. My dad smoked and had tried to quit for years. You'd think they'd have a better understanding of addiction. Edit. No, I'm not Bobby Hill, but feel like I cold bin. My friend's mom actually made her eat her cigarettes when she found out my friend was smoking. She threw up right after and didn't smoke for probably 4 years later when she met a guy who was a chain smoker, and she picked it right back up again. But her mom knows she smokes and lets it go now. They were mad I was playing too many video games. Civilization, Master of Orion 2nd, World of Warcraft I, Final Fantasy I, 2, 3, Tactics, Ogre Battle, Urquan Masters. Okay, so I played lots of games. So they made me go out with friends more. Now keep in mind, I did have friends and was social and would go out once or twice a week with them, but any video games were bad. So my parents forced me to go hang out in my buddy's garage, where they just drank and smoked up at 13 years old. A couple of them ended up getting into some serious drugs by around 16. And my parents still were forcing me to go hang out with them because their parents were good people that will sort him out. Well, they never did. I always thought it was funny that they considered cerebral strategy games more damaging to my development than hanging out with 16-year-old drunks. That's freaking stupid. I actually give credit to video games for me not getting into so much trouble as a teenager. My old friends from elementary school weren't as into video games as I was, so by middle and high school we had drifted apart. They got into trouble with cops on a regular basis. World of Warcraft, which was mainly what I played at the time, only kept me from sometimes not getting my homework done. Ducking like and subscribe.